So
Yeah.
IWA, AWA versus the WWF. This is the thesis that I started with, and through my research, I found that it was very difficult for the IWA and AWA to compete, but they did have a working agreement that I learned about as a teenager, just listening to my mentor's stories, because he was working for Hiro Matsuda, and Vince Sr. actually offered him a contract. And my trainer said the money wasn't enough. Vince Sr. was interested in him and Andre the Giant, Andre Rosenwald at the time, but my trainer declined and stuck with IWA, AWA. So I got really interested in IWA. So with the 1960s coming to a close, the 1970s were approaching, and professional wrestling was emerging in competitive international markets, pointing to a sport which found itself different in different cultural landscapes and promotions, which were growing and working together to create global competition to maximize profits. You can see the sprout of, I guess, pro wrestling, the idea of a business and its growth. A global market was emerging, and wrestling, and with the robust health of the territories intact. One Vince Sr. ran the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. While many think he had no competition, I argue otherwise. Wrestling does hurt. Competition did exist, and it's often the marketing that might be fake. Okay. So, key global players. Thanks to the television system becoming more affordable at home, wrestling was now available within one's own living room. No longer did people have to visit bars or sports stadiums to see taped pro wrestling. So I was told that closed circuit television was actually a lot more affordable back then. So people would go out to public spaces and watch wrestling on closed circuit or live as it happened. In the case of ticket buying spectators, it was now available to mass consumers, and the draw of the ticket still held a lot of value. But the culture of the spectacle and spectator sport, which is professional wrestling, was now available to those at home within the domestic sphere, ushering a time where professional wrestling became pure entertainment for those to enjoy at home and also to talk about in the public. This presentation will not only look at the dynamic history and cultural sociological factors at play, but also the in-ring performers who contributed to professional wrestling as pioneers of the sport and propelled it forward, along with the promoters who made deals shaking hands with people in business. While the WWE Hall of Fame exists in order to pay social tribute to those who helped pioneer the sport, maybe more importantly, give acknowledgement to the pro wrestlers who essentially created the WWE with their work. Many wrestlers whose work was just as important may have been excluded due to the fact that their contributions were outside the context of working for the WWE. And this actually came up. So I'm good friends with WWE producer TJ Wilson as well. Yeah, I think I mentioned it. But I chat with him through Instagram almost every day, and I keep on asking why Tiger Jeet Singh is not yet in the Hall of Fame. And his answer is that Tiger Jeet Singh didn't wrestle in WWF all that much. So, but I still think he should be, because he's definitely a pioneer of the sport, and yeah, propelled it in Japan. So, as an international wrestler. Okay, television and its impact and global reach. It is thus the use of propaganda, or marketing rather, which makes one's in-ring work overshadow others. Despite crowd attendance, draws of pure talent, it does take quite a while for wrestlers to become superstars, and promoting is certainly a key component and huge factor in determining who the most popular wrestlers are. Saturday Night Wrestling telecast was on the Dumont Telecast network, which I've learned is historically prominent in terms of being a television network, because I guess around the 1950s, that was a big boom in television, and the technology was now accessible and new, and there it was. So the Dumont Network was a big deal network, although somewhat forgotten about, played a pivotal role in shaping telecast pro wrestling during the 1950s. Pro wrestling became more casual, not just attracting those who wanted to see a sort of horse race to bet on their favorite wrestlers and to cheer on, but rather also a spectacle which could be enjoyed by families on the weekend. So, catch wrestling and Olympic wrestling's role in manifesting professional wrestling. I also talked to Jake Shannon. He talks about British wrestling a lot, and then he ties it in with Japanese MMA. But I find he doesn't talk about the French and their influence on professional wrestling through Kachkan wrestling, which I found through my research to be really fascinating. So during the early 19, I wrote 1990s. That's actually a typo. It's 1900, 1900. So French Olympians were already using catch wrestling to simulate professional wrestling matches during exhibition bouts. So they'd have a ring, they'd start grappling, and a crowd would come around. And I'm not sure if they would sell tickets or not, but the sport was starting to emerge. But it also became popular in England around the same time, and Billy Riley, who was a legit wrestler, started training other wrestlers like Billy Robinson. The National Wrestling Alliance would later emerge in America as an entity which would oversee various territorial promotions using an emblem to signify an official body or a group of athletes of professional standards in wrestling who were the top of their class. So they were marketing this emblem and using that emblem, saying that, oh, if you have this signature stamp of ours, then you're number one. You can be in this circular group. Or I don't know. For me, as a wrestler, I guess kayfabe, it's not really much about keeping secrets, but it's about circles, that like social circles. So all the wrestlers are in one circle, and there's one promoter told me back in the day they would draw a chalk line, and my trainer told me that the wrestlers will also use a carny talk. So they'd start talking kind of like gibberish if the fans came around. So the chalk line separated the fans from the wrestlers backstage. And even these days when I wrestle on independent shows, like no fans are allowed backstage, just the referees. And even my friend who drives me is not allowed backstage to come say, oh, it's time to go. Just the referees and the wrestlers. And the booker will come back sometimes. Andre the Giant. Andre made his debut as an actor in 1967, which alludes to the notion of pro wrestling as celebrity or actor. On May 18, 1969, Andre teamed with Ivan Strogoff against two Japanese wrestlers, Taya Waru and Strong Kobayashi. Andre began drinking a bit more, 10 beers or so. The documentary that I was watching and the research that I found through the 8th Wonder of the World books today, he enjoyed drinking beer with a Japanese promoter that he met. I'm not sure if it was Hiro Matsuda or another promoter who looked for IWE backstage, but he was actually a really good drinking friend of my mentor. And my mentor got sick eventually from drinking with Andre too much, so he ended up leaving Japan after 3 years. He thoroughly enjoyed their tours and liked President Yoshihara of IWE Japan. That's who it was. The promotion offered other superstars for Andre to work with. Championships, a steel cage, which was not really talked about at the time, tours and tournaments. Andre pro-wrestled in the IWA World Series in the finals against Billy Robinson and Carl Gotch. And you had this like immense tournament with all these superstars from around the world. It's unheard of at the time. Like some of these guys are legit catch can. Well, yeah, they are legit catch can wrestlers. Even Andre was learning that in France before he turned pro. And yeah, these guys could shoot wrestle with each other in the ring if they needed to. They could use folk style. It kind of reminded me of the UFC, but the outcome is predetermined because there was a booker and there was a lot of money on the line. And yeah, probably more than makers make the equivalent of the times, I guess. Yeah. The sort of comparative nature of the time. So it was a tournament style system which included many international recognized superstars. So International Wrestling Enterprise again. IW is founded by Hiro Matsuda, who is seen as a real martial artist and one hell of a pro wrestler. So again, you have this merging with like judo, karate. My trainer was also training karate when he went to Japan. And when he went to the stadiums, he also got to go to sumo events where the emperor would be by invite only. So he was a big deal in Japan. And his monikers were Taro Kuroshio and Big, because when he debuted, he was one of the biggest black wrestlers in Japan at the time. If not, yeah, I don't know how many. I don't know how many big wrestlers. I'm not sure. Bobo Brazil is also very big, but Tony Atlas was in America, so I'm not sure. The Rock's father was also in Japan at the time, and he wrestled with my trainer. They were supposed to wrestle as a tag team, but that did not occur. But apparently they were friends backstage and stuff. They knew each other. So IWB booked real judo stars who knew how to pro wrestle along with international talent who they brought to Japan, and also had one compete on international tours and tournaments. Their approach to pro wrestling can be seen as a purist approach instead of mere entertainment value. This way of promoting prompted a legacy and legitimacy that often makes people argue that pro wrestling is real and hurts compared to onlookers who are in disbelief of the realness of the sport, claiming that wrestlers follow a script like actors on the stage. In reality, much the wrestling other than finishes or real spots, or in a general narrative, are constructed by the booker and promoter, leaving the wrestlers to do their work and call the match backstage or even in the ring, which pro wrestlers call on the fly. I don't think this happens all the time. This might happen sometimes in the WWE, but I guess due to the fact that there's so much money on the line, they want everything to be pre-planned and go so and so based on people backstage that they determine. But on the independents, often the case, the booker tells us to finish. The promoter is overwatching the entire show, putting everything together, has a million things to do. So it's left to the wrestlers to go backstage, act like professionals, know that we're going to hurt each other. Sometimes we beat each other up. And again, we get away with it because that's the nature of pro wrestling. Because people think it's all fake these days. So if we hurt each other, then they might think it's still fake or that it's a botch. I took on a CFL player and he powerbombed me twice and I got a concussion. And my friend said, who was a fan who was doing fan cam at the time, said that looked watched, but it was a jackknife powerbomb. So, and he was a CFL player who weighed 275 pounds, and I'm a cruiserweight. Okay, Vern Gagne. The co-promoter of American Wrestling Association, Vern Gagne, holds a place within the WWE Hall of Fame, being recognized as an outstanding NCAA wrestler and an even better professional wrestler and a world-class promoter who took a leap of cultural faith and invested in a relationship with Japan's hottest promotion, International Wrestling Enterprise, which predated both All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling in existence, and which helped set a long-lasting foundation in Japan of being legitimate. The Japanese pro wrestling being known as being harder, or rather, a lot of people call it stiffer. That was so stiff, or its strong style is stiffer, as they say, or that they hit harder. It's actually not. It's their moves, and we tend to hit with like the meaty parts of our arms and stuff. Not really like Muay Thai. They use the bone. It's bone to skull, or 6 points of combat. They call it the style. So that's really the difference between Muay Thai and pro wrestling. We tend to hit more with our muscles than bone. That causes less injury, so we can perform more dates and get more money. Because pro wrestlers are business people. He worked alongside Vern. So he was essentially a really wholesome type of person. That was a gimmick, but I argue that most gimmicks, if they really need to work, or if you really want them to work, then they should fit the personality of the person who needs to make them work in the first place. The carnivalesque nature of pro wrestling existed as crowds formed around the ring. Tickets were sold to enjoy the spectator sport, but wholesome baby faces helped signify that, I guess, when clashing against, sorry, I had a typo though. Signify that when clashing against evil heel wrestlers. American Wrestling Association, promoted by Larry Carbo and Vern Gagne in Minneapolis. So the focus, this is from the WWE Hall of Fame website. So the AWA's first big holiday show in Minnesota's Metropolitan Stadium was main evented by 2 out of 3 falls, showdown between Gagne and Dick the Bruiser. From the Green Bay Packer, the cigar-chomping Bruiser is a dirty fighter, but the agile Gagne manages to outwit his foe to hang on to the title. In the years to come, Dick the Bruiser becomes one of the AWA's most recognizable faces. That's from WWE.com. Bobby Heenan. I used to hear stories about Bobby Heenan, and he's just known as he's known as a WCW, AWA guy. But in Japan, and I wasn't able to find anything. But my trainer was telling me stories that Bobby Heenan was training with Carl Gotch and Billy Robinson in Japan, and Blackjack Mulligan, which is to me is pretty outlandish. But I believe I believe my mentors. So, and he was AWA and IWB were doing international tours together, kind of going from they were AWA sent Billy Graham and allowed Andre to finish there and etc. So Heenan was doing his squats like anybody else, paying his dues, and apparently he was a big ribber. So his ribs, like I heard that he went to a Japanese press conference without any pants on, and all the ladies and like in the crowd like was gawking at him, and the Japanese journalists were shocked. And then and then apparently he left. So I don't know. Maybe there's no data because of his ribs were so bad for the time.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I got a friend. I've heard Bobby Heenan stories too.
Oh, okay.
And he definitely, I think is going as a ribber.
Yeah.
I want to be cognizant of time, and we still have 2 more presentations. Do you want to go to your last slide or sum it up really quickly so we can make sure to get in our last 2?
I just want to go to my trainer, I guess. Yeah, I had more slides. Maybe I made it too long. Yeah, so this was my trainer, Ted Herbert, of IWB Japan. Yeah, he defeated Larry the Axe Hennig and for a world championship. I'm still trying to indicate which one it was because he told me he held the IWA world title, which was I guess one of the first world titles, and that was the IWE's championships. So some of the data, like you could see on like Wikipedia, it says vacant, but it doesn't show. Like, it shows that Billy Robinson won it afterwards, but they might be missing some of the data on Wikipedia at the time because none of Ted Herbert's matches are actually available. Only his debut, which is on YouTube, I found only 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm still working on finding more research, but I've been at it for a while. So sometimes I exhaust my sources and then I eventually come back to it. Yeah. And some of my matches are on YouTube if you want to. Yeah, I had a chat with Fumi Sato, interview with him.
That's so cool.
Yeah, Fumi's a good friend. This is the last slide was one of my matches. It was against Louis.
Oh, if you want to send us this, I definitely want to be able to
make that would be awesome. Yeah,
put it on the site and everything.
Yeah, I got,
get at least in the video.
Okay, I got to work alongside Cody Deaner as well. Yeah, won that match with the top rope splash and stuff. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I want to thank you for this opportunity. It was really cool.
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah, you're stuck with us now. Thanks.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, this is dope. Much appreciated.